Guys, this is the Bonkers Cards podcast, and today I am joined with two very special guests. I am joined by legendary and famous artist Dick Perez, as well as the director for the upcoming film and movie about Dick's life, Marq Evans. Dick, Mark, thank you guys both so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Yeah, thanks,
Be
Gordon.
here.
Awesome. Well, if you guys don't mind, I'd like to give you guys some flowers. I have two very brief introductions about the two of you. Dick, I will start with you, and then I will get into some of the interview. But I just want to make sure that the audience has a full awareness of both you guys and your career. So for Dick, I had written, today we have the immense pleasure of welcoming a true iconic figure in the world of baseball and art to my podcast. He has captured the essence of America's pastime like no other artist has. With a career spanning over 5 decades, Dick's work has graced the pages of countless baseball card sets, including the legendary Donruss Diamond King series, as well as the Perez Steel postcard sets of the 80s and several other notable collectible sets over the last 40 years. Beyond his iconic baseball cards, Dick has served as the official artist for the National Baseball Hall of Fame, where his portraits have become a cherished part of the museum's collection. His work has been exhibited in prestigious galleries and featured in numerous publications, solidifying his status as one of the most preeminent sports artists of all time. Dick has published several books showcasing his art, including The Immortals, an art of collection of baseball's best, and The New Immortals, which highlights his ability to blend realism with the romanticism of baseball's golden age. Thank you so much for joining us, Dick, and I can't wait to get more into your career and talk about some of those incredible projects that you've had over the last 40 years.
A long day, a long life, rather.
And we are also joined today by Marq Evans, who is the director of the upcoming documentary, The Diamond King, which explores the life and career of the legendary baseball artist, Dick Perez. Mark is an award-winning filmmaker known for his documentary work, including the acclaimed Glamour and Squalor documentary. Mark's films have won awards and garnered recognition at some of the largest film festivals worldwide, and is currently set to begin screening of The Diamond King later this month at the National Sports Collectors Convention and in Cooperstown at the National Baseball Hall of Fame. Mark, thank you so much for joining as well. I hope you guys enjoyed your introductions, and I'm so excited to have you both.
Thanks, Gordon.
Awesome. So, Dick, I want to start with you. There's a lot of excitement about the Diamond King movie coming out in your career. How does it feel as we're in the summer now? The film is getting close to release. What has this experience been like to have a film being made about you? What has it been like?
All my acquaintances can't believe it. I mean, they don't believe me at all. And then they'll say, "You're so humble about it." And anyway, I think it's what makes it unique is that it came from a project that I did long ago. And while I was involved in that project, I really didn't get feedback from anybody, really. Not even Donruss told me whether they liked what I was doing or not.
Right.
I just didn't hear any complaints, so I kept developing new ways of doing portraits in that set. And then lo and behold, a number of years later, those kids that were collecting those cards started contacting me, fan mail with they had a child that they were starting to collect cards with, and then one of those people was Mark, with an email that proposed the movie, and of course I'm not going to say no. So we got started, and amazingly, I'm still getting the fan mail from those people, and it's been almost doubled now than what I do get, and which is one thing that I'm kind of put aside all the time, because there's so many people are asking me, "Can you please draw me a sketch?" And you say, well, if I did that, then everybody's going to want one, and when am I going to sell anything anyway? But it's been quite an experience.
Yeah, no, I can only imagine. And Mark, so you had reached out to Dick about this being a project for you. You saw the vision. What was that process like? Have you just always been a baseball fan? What inspired you to reach out to Dick to make this movie?
Yeah, definitely always been a baseball fan. And what inspired it was kind of what Dick was talking about. I had, I think it was my son had started getting into baseball card collecting. And so that got me back into it a little bit. I've been away from it for a long time. And, like a lot of people, I think it was during COVID that we started going through my old collection. And the Diamond Kings were something that when I was stumbled upon them again, it just brought me back to my childhood and got me thinking, what's the story of the artist of the Diamond King? So that's really where it started, pulling out my binders with my son and then just Googling, okay, Dick Perez, what's Dick's story? And I didn't know Dick. I knew of his name from the Diamond Kings. And I came across his website, and pretty quickly when I realized that he had painted thousands of baseball paintings, he had painted the whole history of the game, and he had a really interesting and unique story from growing up in Puerto Rico and losing his father at a very young age and coming to Harlem by himself at 5 years old and falling in love with baseball there. All of that I thought made for what could be an interesting film. And really where it started was I got excited about the idea, and I popped out an email to him probably that day, I think. And it was just casual. And he wrote back within, a day or two saying, sure, I'm interested, and really what we decided was I was already going to be in New York for my previous movie, Clay Dream, was having its theatrical premiere. And so I said, why don't I stay a couple extra days and bring a camera and we'll shoot an interview or two and just see how it goes and see if we get
Yeah,
along. And we hit it off right away, and we were off and running. So,
that's
and
awesome.
it's really, I mean, this project, out of all the film projects that I've made or been involved with, it's been my favorite process because Dick has been just so awesome to work with, easy to work with, a collaborator in a lot of ways, and I just love the material and the content, and to be able to work with his paintings to show those on the screen. It's really been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much I think about when I hear your story of talking about how you reached out to Dick. And it's really awesome that those emotions that you felt when you first opened the cards, there's clear nostalgia there. And in the film, you feel that nostalgia through Dick's life. There's parts of the movie where Dick talks about his childhood and kind of the emotion and love of baseball and the history of baseball that he put into his artwork. So it's all really like, I don't know, it's an incredible story, and I love how cohesive it all really came together. And like I had mentioned to Dick as well, Mark, I wanted to ask you how you feel. This has been a multi-year project for you. We're at the month of the National Sports Convention when you're going to get to show this film to collectors. How are you feeling with the excitement of the film coming out?
Yeah, I feel great about it. I mean, it's been 2 years, I think, a little less than 2 years. It was August when we first 2022 when we first started shooting. So
Yeah.
uh when this first sneak peek at the National happens, it'll be even less than 2 years, which for me is just like flying. My previous films have generally taken like 5 years, so this has just been
Wow.
lightning fast. Which that would surprise most people that like two
Yeah.
years is kind of a quick process. But for a documentary, it takes a long time for documentaries to come together. Not only because a lot of times the financing is a little bit harder to get, which certainly is has been the case with this, but also in documentary, in a scripted film, you write the script first and then you go shoot it, and so it's easier. And then you edit, based on the script. But in documentary, you put it together in the editing room. So really you're writing it in the edit. So the edit takes a long time as well. And then you're always having to go back and shoot new things that you didn't realize that you were going to need to shoot because you start finding the story.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of reasons why it does take longer. And, but yeah, but I mean, 2 years is obviously a long time to put into this. And I'm just excited for people to see it because I think that, I hope that it will capture a lot of attention for people that maybe weren't even familiar with Dick Perez and his work. Certainly the people that are Dick Perez fans, I think you're going to love it. But I hope that I put something together that is going to be inspiring for artists of any kind, baseball fans of any kind, and just fans of a good human interest story as well too.
Yeah. Yeah, Dick, like the ability that this movie has in showcasing your life and the journey that you had, both, like Mark had mentioned from your early childhood days coming to America and then finding baseball. One of the questions I wanted to ask you was what I had mentioned earlier about your childhood days. And, you wanted to be Mickey Mantle, you wanted to be these baseball legends that were in New York at the time. Can you talk to me a little bit about that nostalgia of your childhood and how that inspired some of your paintings?
Well, yes, as a 6-year-old, by the time I started settling in at a realm, because I didn't, my mother and my sister were not with me. I was with family for about a year. and learning a language, a new language, understanding why it snowed, uh, and malted milks, which was probably one of the greatest things that America had to offer me at the time. But one of the things that growing up in where I was growing up, very diverse, and the main plaything was baseball. Now I mean stickball, softball, punchball, baseball. It just the idea of hitting something with a stick was what I gravitated to. Even before I started to speak the language, I was playing baseball. With just because I was a kid, just like they were kids, and then there were also a lot of Latinos there, so I was able to communicate with some people. But it was probably I considered it the introductory to America was through the game of baseball. Its diversity and the game that has been uh, probably, well, the oldest sport. That's why it's so collectible. I mean, it goes back to the 1800s, and a lot of
Yeah.
artifacts and ephemera from back then that a lot of sports can't claim. So anyway, it was a good experience. And I also drew. I painted. I mean, not painted. I played and I drew, painted or drew, played, and the playing became uh, as my drawing got better. I realized that my playing was not as good, and I knew that I was not going to be succeeding Mickey Mantle in center field, the New York Yankees.
Yes,
And,
the that time period in New York as well, you had the Yankees, the Dodgers, and the Giants there. And for members of my audience, they love to collect from that time period. And now you had an allegiance to one of the three teams, or talk to me about your fanship in that period of time as well.
yeah, at the time that I was in Harlem, I didn't have a team yet. I just liked the game, and we didn't
Right.
have a TV, so I didn't see much baseball, and we didn't have money to go see it. It was basically I was introduced to it by playing it. But my aunt had a bungalow in Staten Island, and I would spend some time in the summer down there. And there was a kid that lived next door whose name was Junior, and I was a junior, so that brought us together. And he was a real baseball guy, and he was a big Yankee fan, and we played ball in Staten Island too. And that's so I became a Yankee fan and then you got to get when you become the fan, you get to know the characters that are in that story, which Mickey Mantle became my most favorite player ever. And so yeah, I mean it was just a gradual but sure uh, attachment to a game that I still feel. I mean, I'm still watching the Yankees, suffering the
Yes.
last couple of days.
Yeah.
But my wife and I watch because she's a Yankee fan. So it's still part of me.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it's definitely clear. I love some of the paintings that you have of Mantle, and any of those stars from the 50s are just beautiful pieces of artwork. The one of my favorites as well was, I believe, the painting. It's of the children in a field, and I don't know if it has a title. I've seen a couple of different titles um, online, but
Probably
it looks
the
to
dream.
be. Say that again.
Probably the dream.
Yes, and it's of children like in a field. It looks to be late 19th century, early 20th century. I can put the photo on the screen during for the interview of the video, but I just love the essence that you capture of baseball as a piece of history, but also as a nostalgic event for so many people. Like they think so fondly of the baseball players that they grew up with. For me, it's a lot of the paintings that you have in the new immortals, like Derek Jeter. I'm a huge Yankees fan as well. I'm a 90s kid. I grew up with Jeter on the Yankees playing shortstop. So everybody can relate to some way because they think back to the players that they had in their childhood and they see that in your artwork. So I love that. And yeah, I do think that was the name of the painting. Thank you, Marq.
Maybe it
But
was actually, I think it was the Dream 2.
okay.
TOO, I believe.
Oh, the
Okay.
kids playing in the city. in a city.
Well, that was the
Capital kind of
dream,
thing.
right? The Harlem one, the Ichiro one.
Yeah.
Yes. I will get this picture up on screen if I can for a second, just to show you guys what I'm speaking about. Actually, if I can share
Yeah,
my.
there were two of those kids playing. I think we did it for the Hall of Fame, to either to raise money or something. And the dream was one where there were two children coming onto a country field, and they're looking, hoping to be invited to play baseball with the kids that were playing baseball. That was the dream. And then that was a very successful print. So I was asked to do another one. So I did a city version of it, which would be more familiar to me because that's the kind, that painting is what I used to do against walls, hitting hitting a ball with a stick, painting a box that is a strike zone and all that. And
Yes.
that's the dream too. I think that's the one you're referring to.
Okay, very cool. Well, regardless, the artwork is beautiful to look at, and I really love how nostalgic it kind of evokes emotion in you, which is awesome. Now, you mentioned you were a Yankee fan as well. I wanted to ask you, my audience are big baseball card collectors. They're diehard collectors. Are you a collector yourself of baseball cards? I see some of your artwork behind you. I just would love to know what you collect.
Well, I did. I had a pretty good collection, but I never saw it. It was always in drawers, and you
Yeah,
wonder, why do people collect? I mean, because you don't. It's not like you carry it around with you. I did. I was one of those people that did what the the kids did in the '90s when they were looking for Diamond Kings in every pack they opened. I was, when cards came out in early spring, I would be there tearing them up, hoping for a Mickey Mantle. I mean, looking for a card that was a Yankee or something like that.
right.
So it's really funny that years later, kids were doing the same thing with what I was doing
Yeah.
and what I was doing. So I find that kind of a good come around.
And so, as it stands today, your collectibles are mostly of your artwork. There are no cards still in your collection. Am I understanding that correctly?
Right, right. Uh, I might have some really old cards, like those cabinet cards.
Yes.
I might have a few of those, but basically, I don't have I don't collect cards anymore.
Yeah. No, I'm just curious as somebody who's been around the game, and you're kind of synonymous with cards and collectibles themselves. For me, I understand the challenge of displaying your cards. If you can see behind me in my office, I try to keep as many cards as I can on display to look at them. I'm a big 1954 Topps collector, but I know you and I had previous conversations over some of those early top sets that look like artwork. I believe, did you say you love the 53 top set as well? I want to ask you, outside of the sets that you had a hand in painting, what your favorite baseball card set is.
Yeah, it's 50. It was the last year that I think Topps used illustrators to do but they did it so they look like photographs. And I say, why would you do a painting that looks like a photograph? Just do the photograph.
Yeah.
So, but they still look different. There was something about them that was different from a photograph, even though they were very, very realistic. And later I found out that it was a painting. I didn't know it at the time, but I knew that they were different and I liked them better than anything else that I collected.
Yeah.
And so art, then they stopped until I was given an opportunity to bring it back
Yeah.
to do paintings for cards. You couldn't do all like like they used to do back then because there were just too many players. You'd never finish.
Right.
So we devised a way with a new card company to do a set or a subset that featured illustrated portraits of baseball players.
Right. And from my understanding as well, you're still painting, correct?
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
So what can you tell me about what you're painting maybe currently? Anything that's exciting you right now?
Yeah, I think I've always been a movie fan. Also a distraction that from the toils of life. But I started looking into. At first, I wanted to do. I said I painted heroes, but they're all sports heroes. But their life is full of heroes. there are heroes all over the place, in all over, meaning in other industries and endeavors. And one of the things that I thought of was Hollywood, the silent years. And when the more I look into it, the more it parallels the way the stories and the lives of these stars that play baseball and the stars that were filled the screen, the silent films. So I've been painting. I want to paint about 150 portraits of film stars from the silent films to today, and then hope to have an exhibit of that.
That's really cool.
Somewhere, you know.
Yeah, it's so cool.
I've done about 50.
Parallel with baseball. It's like Dick said, the heroes, and his career of baseball has been the whole, spanning the whole history of the game. So he's basically taking what he's done in baseball into Hollywood
That's awesome.
and actors. And
I mean, it's really like cool. One of the things, I mean, African Americans had a baseball league way back. Negro leagues were way back to when baseball almost started.
Yeah.
And the film industry the same way. In 1893, there were African American films being made. So there's a parallel there that also, because I've always been, I mean, I wasn't that aware or familiar with Negro Leagues, but when I got into cards and everything else, I became, and I met Frank Steele, who was a collector, introduced me to a lot of Negro Leaguers. I mean, in vision, in pictures and stuff, and in stories, that I became enamored with the fact that here's a subject matter that really offers a lot of photography. It was usually team pictures. It was very hard to find action photos of Negro League play.
Yeah.
So I had to make them up, which is something I love to do, is to create my own scenes. And that didn't go unnoticed by some people who are familiar with the Negro Leagues, because they knew how hard it is to find images that featured Negro League players.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting. I'm excited to see that project continue to unfold, and I have no doubt it's going to be incredible. But Dick, I have some exciting news and announcement that I want to bring on this podcast to you. So, as many of the members of my community audience might know, I also am really involved with vintage breaks, and I'm really excited to talk about my next vintage set break. So I wanted to ask you if you could kick off the promo video that I'll be releasing later this week on the break. So it is going to be titled The Diamond King Bonkers Break. So I would love it if you could kick off the conversation around it by just saying, "Hi, this is Dick Perez, and welcome to the Diamond King Bonkers Break."
Hi, this is Dick Perez, and welcome to the Diamond King Bonkers Break.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Yes, there it is. First take, you crushed it. But
one take Perez.
That's it, man. And what I'm excited about with this being in coordination with the Diamond King movie, I've been planning this for a while, especially once me and Mark got to talking about the film and the idea of bringing it to the National, and us being in July, the month of the National. I'm going to be doing a vintage set break in honor of you, your career, and some of the amazing artwork that you put together. So I do have some of the celebrations cards here that are signed by the players. I have a complete graded set that's going to be included in this set break. And it's going to have all different pieces of your artwork and cards. There's going to be some of the cabinet cards with your artwork, some of the Perez steel pieces. I'm going to try to get some Diamond Kings cards in there. And then I'm also including some of the new sets that are coming out in coordination with the promotion of this film. Mark, you and I had been talking earlier this week about some of the Immortal sets, the postcard sets that have just come out as collectibles pieces in coordination with this film. That is all going to be included in this Bonkers vintage set, the Diamond King Bonkers Break. So I'm really excited to announce that. The set break, it is going to be roughly around 125 spots. The autographs are all complete with Mickey Mantle, Stan Musial, Yogi Berra, Ernie Banks, Hank Aaron, all of the great players from the 50s and 60s that I know my audience still collects so deeply. Mark, I want to talk to you as well about some of those really cool sets that are going to be involved in this set break and also available for sale at the diamondkingmovie.com and at the National. Can you talk to me about the creation of these new Immortal sets and the postcard sets and some of these other items?
Yeah, so Dick, you haven't even seen the printed versions yet. So we've got so all Cleveland players.
And this is for the National set that will also be
just for the National. So focus is tough there. But you've got Nap Lajoie, Tris Speaker.
Okay.
Let's see, we got Bob Feller, Larry Doby.
I love the Doby.
Earl Averill, Satchel Paige, and Jim Thome. And what I think is especially cool about these is, of course, not only Dick's art, but on the back there, you've got a QR code on each card. And we've designed, that'll take you to a website on the Diamond King movie website for each player. And there's bonus content on there. So for instance, on the Satchel Paige, there's a clip that's not included in the movie, but it's Bob Kendrick, the president of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. And he's got this amazing 45-second, blurb about Satchel Paige and all the different pitches that Satchel Paige threw. Just the names of his pitches just go on and on and on and on. So things like that weren't included in the movie, I was able to find and piece together and put on a website. So by getting this set, which there's only 100 of these, but that'll unlock essentially additional bonus content for the movie that you're only getting access to when you buy a set. So I think it's pretty cool.
Let me see that, the Bob Feller one, the Bob Feller one. That's Bob Feller's number was 29 when and I had a story behind that. He came up to me. There was a dinner being held at the Waldorf that the Hall of Fame would do for every year. And he came up to me. He said he had a bone to pick with me. He said, if you're going to paint me with my right number. And I said, well, that you don't understand. This card is in a set that features great moments. Your great moment was your rookie year. And that was the number you were. And he didn't want to buy it. But then he found out that he got more for signing those than anything else. So he started to sign, and I never met him. I mean, I didn't see him again for any apology or anything, but I just thought it was funny that he get at me. He said they very, very particular on some of them about how they're portrayed.
So it's funny though, because I think it's even cooler that you've got a painting with a number that he only wore his rookie year.
Right.
To me, that's more interesting.
Right.
Yeah, collectors always
said something about it. He objected.
Collectors always gravitate towards the obscure, the rarity, and to see something unique like that is awesome. And again, that's going to be emblematic of our upcoming set break, the Dick Perez Diamond King Bonkers break that's going to be announced very soon. I'm very excited about that. We only have about 3 minutes left on this interview. So I want to make sure that before we leave, I give my audience plenty of resources to know where to go to watch this film, screenings, upcoming schedule. So Mark, if you'd like to share just what the plan is in coordination over the next couple months for screenings, where to go for resources on the movie, would love to give you the floor for the last minute or two here.
Sure, yeah. I think the best place to get information is the website for the movie, which is thediamondkingmovie.com. I try to keep that updated. Join the newsletter. That's where, as we do start announcing dates, I'll be posting those to a newsletter. So social media handles as well too, which is usually either the Diamond King or the Diamond King Movie. But the plan is lining up probably 5 of these sneak peeks. So from the National, there's a screening August 2nd at the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. On August 10th, there's a screening in Minneapolis at the Sabre annual convention. And then there's a couple other ones that are in the works that can't quite say yet. And then we'll be doing film festivals in the fall and winter. And then the official release would still be a little bit TBD. It could be in the winter, but a lot of times you want to plan the release, strategically. So that is TBD. Maybe it'll be in the winter, maybe in the spring next year, but it's all part of this rollout and giving audiences the chance to see it. So I'm super excited for this first one at the National. And then we're just going to be off and running from there.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, really excited about this first screening at the National. The registration to get into the free screening, we did totally book within 24 hours for the pre-register. Now, if you're attending the National and you weren't able to sign up, you can still get on the wait list because we are going to have a standby line to get into the screening. Correct, Marq?
Yeah, yep. And it's going to be awesome. We've got, not only myself and Dick, but also Joe Posnanski, acclaimed #1 New York Times best-selling sports writer who wrote the narration for the movie, is going to be there at the National, as well as the actor John Ortiz, who performed the narration. So both Joe and John are going to be at the screening as well, too. So it's really going to be a great time, and just can't wait.
Yeah, I'm super excited, guys. So again, for all this information, you can go to the diamondkingmovie.com. You can also check out bonkerscards.co and subscribe to my weekly newsletter as well over on Substack, which is just bonkerscards.substack.com. I write weekly about everything that's going on in the vintage hobby, as well as my upcoming set breaks, my travel schedule for card shows, cards that I have upcoming for listed. I will have links from this podcast, my YouTube videos. All of that can be found on the Bonkers Cards newsletter, so definitely check that out. I want to thank you, Dick, so much for your time this morning as well, for joining me on the podcast. Thank you so much, Marq, for joining on as well. This was an awesome conversation, and I can't wait to get this out to the Bonkers community. So thank you guys both so much.
Okay, I'm glad to be here.
And I'll see you guys in Cleveland in only a few weeks. I'm excited.
Okay, be great.
Awesome. Awesome, guys. Well, thank you so much. Guys, this is the end of the Bonkers Cards podcast. Until next time, my name is Gordy. I'll see you later. Bye.